Route 7 loop is currently closed due to an accident. Please use Route 12 at the gate board.
In Neon Genesis Evangelion, there's a 1.5-minute scene where nothing happens. It's commonly called the elevator scene among watchers of the show. As you can probably tell, it features Asuka wearing a school uniform, leaning against the wall with her foot resting on it and arms crossed. Rei is facing the camera, in the same uniform, but most of Rei's body is out of frame. The silence is finally broken when Rei tells Asuka this.
If you don't open your mind to her, your Ava will not move.
You're saying this is my fault? I'm blocking myself?
What do you feel in this moment? What were your emotions as this minute-long scene plays? If you're like me, you're reaching for the skip button because our brains have been rotted by TikTok, Family Guy, and South Park clips with Subway Surfer underneath. Or maybe you sit there and contemplate the meaning of this clip, using body language of each character along with their relationship to try and understand why this scene is being shown to you. I think most people, me included, did not care about this clip when we first watched the show, because we didn't understand its context within the scope of the anime. It's a heavily controversial scene. While a lot of people will advocate for it, a lot of people will also heavily criticize it. One side of the argument says that it's used as a literary technique to show character dynamic and Asuka's predisposition to lash out at any problem, while the other side considers this a lazy attempt at padding out an episode by having one scene show for nearly 1.5 minutes. I'm not here to explain why one opinion is more valid than others. That's not my job, but I do want to talk about some things and maybe you can understand why this scene is the way that it is. My name is Laszlo, and I have no free time, but I have enough to be standing in front of you today. Usually I'd start out my videos by saying it's a great day, the sun is shining, yada yada, but it's Valentine's Day, and as you can see... But I hope you're having a good day, and if you're not, well, I hope this video can make it a little bit better. While this video's main topic is about how silence can be used as a tool to change your perspective on certain situations, this all stems from how audio, or more importantly music, is used in anime. Which is a long topic that I am definitely underqualified to talk about, but I can at least try and understand and convey what music is used for from a literary standpoint. So to try and explain why the absence of something is being used, we have to understand why that thing might be used in the first place. Because of the constant need to play something, shows will often resort to playing a track multiple times during scenes that are not as important. The track that's playing right now pops up occasionally in the Nier Automata anime, and it's used whenever 2B and 9S are walking alone in the city. The best way to describe this track is that it's desolate. The use of long drawn-out notes and the echoes that you hear coming back are to signify a certain emptiness to the city that they walk around in. When 2B finally meets up with the Resistance camp, the track that they use is way more comforting than the previous one. It even has backing vocals to try and show a humanity in the Resistance people. And when 2B is in combat with the enemy machines, you get this track, which is a frantic mess of nonsense, occasionally followed by a beautiful chorus which can only be related to a dance to the death. While you could say that these scenes hold some story value as they're the first scene where X happens, or they're a high action sequence, in the grand scheme of the story, they aren't all that important. The only thing that music does is connect what you are hearing to what you are seeing. Most music in anime is non-diegetic, meaning it is not heard by the characters in the show, only the people that are watching. For example, in this scene in the Chainsaw Man anime, Denji isn't actually hearing a metal song as he fights. It is added later, and we hear it when we're watching. It differs from, say, Bocchi the Rock, where the characters are actively playing the music you hear. This means that the music is diegetic. All this really means is that the music that is added to a certain scene is never supposed to interact with the characters in the show, as there's no direct correlation between the visuals and the audio. There is an invisible barrier that separates what you see and what you hear, but that doesn't mean that they can't have some sort of ethereal connection to each other. I feel like my analogy is getting sidetracked a bit, so let's start over and let's look at this scene to try and explain my point. This is a very emotional scene from the movie Your Name. I hope I didn't spoil anything for when you watch it. The music in the scene does not interact with the characters at all. It is something that only you and I can hear. If you were to remove it completely, it does not really take away from the story. But if you were to take it away, it's not quite the same. It doesn't feel as emotional as it did before. It's not that the song is technically adding to the emotion of the scene. On a fundamental level, the scene still holds the same emotional value. Instead, what the music does is sort of guide you to the correct emotion you should be feeling in that scene. I am a big Xenoblade fan, and if I hear the beginning notes of Where We Belong or Drifting Souls, I will break down crying because the song is sad, but also because the moment in the game was sad. For strictly anime watchers, though, this song might be a more fitting example.
Damn it.
This is the end to the very famous or infamous Anohana, the flowers we saw that day. Now, if you watched the last video, which you totally should, you'll remember me saying that I don't speak Japanese. So when I hear the song, I don't hear any lyrics, or at least they don't mean anything to me. Maybe to some of you they do, but to me, I'm an idiot. If you were to translate the song into English, something that I can understand, the emotions are still there. The lyrics are still sad, but I'm not hearing the translation. It's still not where the emotions of this song are coming from. The emotions that I get from hearing the song are when Jintan and the rest of the group are yelling out to Menma as the song plays in the background. I think Anohana's ending stands out the most in the songs that make anime watchers cry, because the anime repeatedly uses it at emotional high points. As each episode ends, you are given an emotional story point that already wants to make you cry. And then on top of that, they throw the song just to push you over the edge. It is famously a very sad song. Next thing I want to talk about is You Say Run, a track that's played intermittently throughout the My Hero Academia anime. Its most notable use of this song is when All Might fights his first Nomu at the UFA. At UFA? Is it UFA? Is this wrong? While I'm not a student of musical arts, the feeling that the song gives off comes from both the exciting nature of the song itself, but also the memories I get when I first watch All Might beat the ever-living out of that Nomu. And don't take my word for it, You Say Run has become famous for being the hype song that all anime watchers know. I've seen both Ludwig and Seadog use this song while playing Jump King. While it never helped, it sure was hype. Now, I feel like the last few minutes of me talking are all pretty well-known and understood things about how music is used in anime and why different songs evoke feelings. I said it before, the main idea of music is to connect what you are hearing to what you are seeing. This is an important topic, which is why I'm going to say it twice. Music is just a way to connect what you are seeing to what you are hearing. One unfortunate thing with talking about silence in anime is that half the time the anime uses silence as a literary technique, it always surrounds some heavy spoiler content. Usually it's like the death of a character or something really important just happened and the following few seconds are just silence. And I'll explain why that is in just a bit, but to avoid showing outright spoilers, I'm going to be editing these clips a little bit to either blur them, cut the footage entirely and just play the audio, or separate dialogue using the site called Vocal Remover. If you're still skeptical about being spoiled on some of these shows, I'm going to leave the anime in the top left and a time code that you can skip to if you want to fully avoid any and all spoilers, but I have done my best to try and cut around everything. As long as you are human and have the capability to hear, you are always listening to something. As I was writing this, I was listening to the Octopath Traveler OST because I love it. As I'm recording this, I can hear my furnace in the background. And you are listening to me right now. And even if I do this, I have a room tone that I put over all of my videos, which is a combination of things like cameras, computers, things that make very quiet noise. Also, my knuckle just cracked. I hope I didn't catch that. The long and short of it is, there's something happening at all times that you can hear. One of the ways which you can stop hearing anything is if you stop feeling anything and all of your senses are put to sleep. One of the ways that you can do that is by going to sleep. As you are falling asleep or as you are awaking from your slumber, it takes a while for your senses to either disappear or come back to you, and silence can be a good portrayal of this. There is a lot of examples that I could pull from characters waking up or falling asleep, but I think this shot from Lupin III kind of encapsulates everything that I want to bring up.
Why him?
It's pretty hard to replicate the feeling of being knocked out through media like anime. When you're asleep, you feel nothing. You do not hear anything, you do not taste, you do not see. But if you are watching anime, then presumably you have all your senses intact. That is until they find a way to knock you out while you're watching something, which is crazy and insane, and this is not an idea. Please do not make this a reality. Because anime is a visual and auditory medium, the only way that they can control your senses is to limit the things that they can control, which is your sight and your sound, your hearing. It's often the reason why they'll fade to a blank screen as well as cutting the audio. It's an attempt to mimic the feeling of losing consciousness. Being knocked out isn't the only way a person can lose consciousness. Sadly, this is a more spoiler-ridden section, so I'm going to make a small point to say there are very few circumstances where you will lose all of your feeling. You lose all sense, and it's when your conscious is slipping away from this world, not just falling to sleep. And I'm not the moral authority on this because I'm still alive, I think, and I don't know what it feels like to die, but if I had to guess, I think it would be something like this.
Oh, this brilliant light.
The fade to white, the slow deafening of the sound, and then eventually nothing. Because people tend to only die once, I obviously cannot say for certain if that's what it looks or sounds like, but I think this is what most people view when they envision death. So, if music and sound are the vessels which take us to the emotion we should be feeling, then nothingness is an emotion as well. The lack of an emotion is just as powerful as having one. When making a movie or a show, there are a few different ways to end a piece of music that is being played in the background. The last few examples we had looked at all had the music fade to silence, as a whole point is that the characters are losing consciousness, which is a slower process. One of the ways that they can cut music is by hard cut. One of the reasons the developer will use a hard cut in the music is when something unexpected happens and completely flips our understanding of a scene. The act of stopping the music abruptly is to show the juxtaposition between what we are used to seeing and the reality of the situation that these characters are in. I might not be explaining myself very well, so here's a clip from Bleach to maybe help me out. For those who like Bleach or are really knowledgeable about anime music, you'll know the song that's being played in this clip is called Number One, or more colloquially known as Ichigo's theme. The song makes its appearance a few times throughout the show, and each time it's played during similar circumstances. The general vibes of the song are a stand up against adversity as this ballad of triumph that also fits very edgy yet upbeat world that's inside Ichigo's head. It's played during a lot of his more shonen moments. The scene that we just watched follows that same pattern. Ichigo is losing to a strong foe, and by the power of friendship, the song starts up and everyone gets hype. We, the viewers, have an expectation of what's going to happen next because everything is telling us that, hey, remember this thing that's happened before? It's happening again and will obviously lead to the same outcome. And the music is just a cherry on top of that. It supports the theory that everything is going to be fine because it's always been fine in the past. So when Aizen quickly stops Ichigo's blade and the music stops with it, our expectations of the situation are shattered. The feeling that you should be getting with the scene is a slow building of hype, the expectation that our heroes will succeed against a strong foe, followed by a hard fall off a cliff. Now, the reason this is such a good scene is because of what I just said. That emotional roller coaster is not only being felt by the viewers, but also by the characters in the story as well. As Ichigo and Renji carry out their plan for victory, they have the expectation that it will succeed. But when Aizen stops the blade, there's no chance of winning. They're all but screwed. This is a tool in storytelling that probably has a name, but I don't know it, so I'm calling it the Looney Tunes Fall. Much like Aizen stopping Ichigo's sword, the Looney Tunes Fall follows a character's expecting something to happen, a sly look to the camera, followed by a very fast drop. But how does this all loop back to silence in anime? Well, like I was saying earlier, music is often the rails that we ride on towards the emotion we should be experiencing in that moment. Ichigo's theme is the song that's played when Ichigo is about to do something cool, while also being a song about rising against adversity and trying your best. Abruptly stopping this song and following it up with Nothing Save for the Wind is to drastically change the feeling of what is happening, to lose the rails that the music is taking us on. Another great examples of the Looney Tunes fall is during the absolute climax of the movie Your Name. I feel safe talking about it because it's Your Name, who hasn't seen it. When Mitsuha and Taki finally figure out that they're in different time zones and that there's a massive asteroid heading for the village, they both make the promise to write each other's names in their hands so that they will never forget each other. This is what it leads to.
Let's write down our names. Here.
What a good movie. But as you'll notice, as Mitsuha disappears into nothingness and the marker falls to the ground, the music has already stopped. We have some expectation that Mitsuha is going to disappear at some time thanks to the line of dialogue a few seconds earlier, but the audience still has the expectation that they're going to write each other's names in the other's hands. The aggressive drop of the marker and Mitsuha not being there just isn't enough to feel Taki's sense of loneliness, so they take away the one thing that's left. While I think it's pretty obvious as to why they would stop the music at this particular moment, the following few seconds of utter silence, cut to a different angle, do a really good job at abandoning Taki and the person watching. It's like being I don't think I can say that on YouTube. It's like making a delicious pizza. Your mouth is watering, and just as you're taking it out of the oven, it falls on the floor. Like you're so close to the thing that you've always wanted, but the world doesn't let you have it. Which is a very similar situation to Wile E. Coyote setting up an elaborate scheme expecting nothing to go wrong for him to fall off the edge of a cliff confused and scared for what's to come. And yes, I'm imposing emotions on a character that only converses through text. It fits my narrative. This whole video, I haven't brought up that thing I mentioned and called very important for a very good reason. I want to bring it all together, all the knowledge that we know, and have a spitball a few ideas as to why someone might use silence in their anime. Music is just a way to connect the thing that you are seeing to the thing that you are hearing. By any means possible, sound designers and composers try to mimic the feeling of what's happening on screen, and for every circumstance that it should, silence does a way better job of doing that. The first thing I showed in this video, the long drawn-out silence, is used to mimic the silence and awkwardness between Rei and Asuka. Just because it's a minute long doesn't really change that. Lupin III had a fade to silence as Amy was being knocked out, and fading out of the music into silence was a way to signify Amy losing all of her senses as she lost consciousness. Fate Zero did the exact same thing, except a little different. Bleach had a character lose all understanding of a situation, as his expectations were incorrect, and he was not in the position he thought he was, so the hard cut of music was to exemplify the difference in skill and confusion that Ichigo was having. And finally, Your Name, which I think is the most self-explanatory, but still uses silence in juxtaposition with music as a way to derail the expectations of the viewer and change the meaning of a certain scene. There's a famous quote that is attributed to no one, but also everyone at the same time that goes, "You cannot have light without darkness." And while that's factually incorrect, I am going to imagine that is true for the last minute of this video. The idea of there is no light without darkness comes from the intrinsic connection that light has to dark. They are two inseparable, yet opposing forces that will never meet. The concept of silence is that but for sound. While silence is the natural form of things, music is often seen as a more impressive or more important thing as it's been shaped into something that can hold a lot of emotional value. But it's kind of hard to fall asleep with the lights on. My name is Laszlo, and I hope that someday you'll remember me. Thank you for watching. See ya.